No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
It's been done 31 times before in the history of the NHL. The Winnipeg Jets, by virtue of tonight's defeat at the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights, will need to be the 32nd team to come back from down 3-1 in order to continue their playoff journey. Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. With Dave Manouk live at Canada Life Center, with Ezra Ginsburg live in his basement. I'm your host, Drew Mindell, live in my electrical room, bringing you complete coverage of tonight's Vegas Golden Knights victory over the Winnipeg Jets, a 4-2 margin. The Jets lose a game they can ill afford to lose. They lose another forward they can ill afford to lose in Mark Scheifele, leaving the game very early on and not returning. Gentlemen, the Jets were game in terms of the effort, but they just fell short, and I think a lot of it had to do with simply being outmanned, outperformed by virtue of the talent level and the disparity therein between the two teams. Good evening to you both.
What's up, boys? Yeah, good evening to everybody watching as well. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for the talent disparity, especially when Scheifele leaves the game early. And I'm sure we're going to get into that because a lot of people, have been retweeting the replay where Laurent Brossoit clearly trips him. And the debate could be, I guess you could go both ways, whether that was on purpose or, that was part of the play, right? But Scheifele left the game and, we'll have to wait for further updates. But yeah, I mean, look at the Jets had a pretty stinky second period. I thought the Golden Knights were pretty dominant in that second period. They probably could have had more. And in that third period, I mean, the Jets had a pretty valiant comeback, as you mentioned, Drew. Looked like Blake Wheeler had his second of the game. Obviously, it went to Pierre-Luc Dubois. But, there was no shortage of chances, right? You saw Dylan Sandberg had a good scoring chance. I thought, the Lowry line was excellent again tonight. I thought Nino Niederreiter was really good tonight, but you come up a goal short, and, that's what happens. I mean, we were joking, that the 3-goal lead is the most dangerous lead in hockey. And, it was looking like the 2-goal lead was going to be the most dangerous lead in hockey. But, yeah, they just couldn't get the equalizer and, give the Golden Knights credit that, they were, tightening up a little bit there in the third period. So it's going to be a very difficult, task coming up for the Jets to go into Vegas, win a game, and then win the next couple. And really, it's kind of crazy, but the Jets haven't won a playoff game at home since 2018, which is kind of hard to believe. But yeah, the Golden Knights definitely have had their number in the playoffs. That's for sure.
They certainly have. Dave M joins us from the press box at Canada Life Center. Dave M, it just seemed like, there's just, you look at the players that the Jets had available to them throughout this game, and hard work and effort, from maybe some lesser skilled players can work during the regular season for a period of time. We saw it happen here earlier, but I think push comes to shove come playoff time, when nobody takes any nights off, or they shouldn't take any nights off, and every game matters that much more. You can see how the talent disparity is just playing itself out on the ice, in tonight's game.
Well, I don't think there's any question about that, Drew, although you're getting some pushback on your 2018 because Brass Balls Blake is saying that there were a couple of wins in the when they we tend to forget about those playoff games when they defeated the Oilers here.
It wasn't me who said that. It was Ezzy who said that.
Who said it?
It was Ezzy who said it.
Whatever.
But that's because he said that. I mean, the broadcast also said it too. I think with the broadcast had something on the screen saying the Jets, the last time they won a game at home in the playoffs, and then they skipped over the COVID year when there were no fans in attendance.
Fair enough. Oh, maybe they meant in front of fans or something like that. I think
so, probably.
Anyways, the point is, well, they probably did now that I think about it, because it would be like the whiteout, right? So, yeah. I mean, look, the game started very similarly to the last game where the fan base was jacked and everybody was excited, and yet the Jets scored the first goal, so the building is pumped up. But you could see right away. I mean, it was weird because when Mark Scheifele went down, it didn't look that bad. It really didn't. Like he got up fairly quickly when it transpired, kind of shook it off. I mean, he was down for a second, but then he shook it off, so it didn't appear he wasn't wincing. So it didn't appear that there was anything really wrong with him. And you're thinking, okay, well, they dodged a bullet. And then, of course, the next shift, you see that they didn't dodge a bullet. In fact, and it was very bad for Mark Scheifele and his prognosis for the rest of the game. It didn't, people were saying, let's put it this way. A lot of eyes were on the tunnel in Canada Life, but it didn't really seem to make a difference, of course, because he wasn't coming back.
When he made that beeline, when he took that, maybe you can account for the feeble shot as it, sometimes maybe you knuckle it or you hit it off the heel or something. But when he just turned and sprinted straight for the bench and right down the tunnel, you immediately think, well, this is something that's seriously wrong, where some part of his anatomy is not performing properly. It's I don't know. I'm not going to play doctor. I'm not going to speculate as to what it could possibly be. But he crashed into the boards with a very high velocity.
Upper body.
Yeah, he crashed into the boards with a high degree of velocity, and you hit a big wall. It's gonna do some damage. And in this case, sometimes you're able to. It's a bruise, or sometimes you can just sort of shake it off, and sometimes it actually is a legitimate injury.
Well, he came back on the ice and had on the power play, so that's why there was no indication at the time that it was necessarily going to take him out of the game. But obviously, the way he left the ice, you could tell that it wasn't something where he was going to come right back.
No, not by a long shot. It looked bad, and we'll obviously wait to see what Rick Bowness has to say about it when he speaks to the media over the course of tonight's post-game show. But it definitely was not a good thing, and then the Winnipeg Jets were in trouble as a result. I mean, you are a makeshift hockey team. You're playing with I'm going to say, 5.5 defensemen, because the team really didn't, you could see him from the get-go that the amount of trust that they had in Logan Stanley was not overwhelmingly high, because he was skipped through the rotation for the first few times during the game. And now you're down to 11 forwards, and Mark Scheifele has been your best goal scorer this season. And now he's out of the lineup, in addition to, of course, Nikolai Ehlers, who hasn't played, and Josh Morrissey and Kyle Connor, who, I know a lot of people are clamoring to see more from him, in tonight's game, because, he needed to step up if the Jets want to continue to play in these Stanley Cup playoffs, given all the injuries. I mean, look, it's similar to Game 4. The Vegas Golden Knights Game 3, because tonight was Game 4, but the Vegas Golden Knights, their best players are performing better right now than the Jets, than those of the Jets' best players that are still healthy, and that number is dwindling quickly.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and yeah, I mean, look, you're having to move Kevin Stenlund up into a top 6 role. All due respect to Kevin Stenlund, I mean, you're just not going to get as much, not even close to the amount of offense you're going to get from Mark Scheifele. I think he's done an admirable job on the fourth line. And, we talked about Blake Wheeler. He was really good again tonight. I thought he elevated his game. Yeah, there's no doubt, Drew, that Kyle Connor, this was not his best game. I don't think he would say he had a bad game. Like, I can remember a few scoring chances that he had off the top of my head. But, I mean, after that, yeah, I mean, who's creating offense for you, right? Like, Mason Appleton draws the penalty on Michael Amadio. So I thought Appleton was moving his feet. He looked good. Brendan Dillon was jumping up into the play. Neil Pionk was jumping up into the play. Nate Schmidt was hammering that puck from the blue line, missing the net, but also hitting the net at times. It was hitting bodies in front. But look if the Jets would have tied that up and won it, we would have been talking about how it's all about the next man up mentality. And, the Jets, found a way to win, even though they didn't have Scheifele and Morrissey. So sure, you could simplify it to the Golden Knights, having more talent, and, the Jets missing some key pieces. And if Scheifele is out for the remainder of the season, the remainder of the series, then yeah, it's going to be really hard. But this series is probably over anyways.
Well, 3-1 for Vegas in the series now, Dave. It's going to be very difficult for the Jets to overcome that. But it really is a function of, I think as he made some good points, a lot of players are doing what they can. They're doing what they can to try and carry this team through. Blake Wheeler has been very good. I thought Blake Wheeler was probably the Jets' best forward on the ice tonight, and he's trying to elevate his game in this opportunity. There just needs to be more of that from Kyle Connor, maybe even a little more of that from Pierre-Luc Dubois. You can't ask for much more from Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton and Morgan Barron and Nemesnikov and Niederreiter. I think these guys are
Barron was another forward who I thought was really good tonight, rocking the full bird cage.
Yeah.
You're right, Drew. I mean, you're not going to point to a lot of even Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, and you're right, he didn't play a ton, but you're not expecting Axel Jonsson-Fjällby to come in playing his first game. Just checking here, he only played 5 minutes. Right. And obviously, when the Jets go down 2 goals, Axel Jonsson-Fjällby is going to have to wait a long time to get his turn. Right. So, I mean, effort is one thing. But when you're already missing Nikolai Ehlers in the series, you're already missing your best defenseman, and then your top center or second line center or number one winger, whatever we're calling Mark Scheifele these days. When you're without Mark Scheifele, I mean, there's only so many guys that you can really rely on to score goals for you, quite frankly.
No, I think Ezzy's right. And I think that's just ultimately the reality is that you just don't have the wheels or the horses to get it done. And if you do, like, where were they, right? Like, where's Pierre-Luc Dubois' effort? I mean, he's taking silly penalties.
And that's a penalty, Dave. Like, I don't know why anybody was complaining about that.
Well,
that's a trip.
You know what? I will tell you, Ezzy, when I first saw it, I actually thought it was a marginal call. My first initial reaction to it was, oh, that seemed somewhat unnecessary to even make that call. Then I watched it again and replay, and sure enough, I was like, okay, that's a penalty, and it's an unnecessary one because the reality is the Jets need Pierre-Luc Dubois to score goals, and he got that fluky goal, and then the third period. But I mean, at the end of the day, we've talked about it. If you want to be a $10 million man, if you want to be the man that everyone puts, says, oh, that's the guy, he's the guy. Well, I didn't
want to be like Drew, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically, if you want to be Drew, but the point is that if you wanted to be the guy that everyone looks at and says you're the player that this team is going to rely on, that's going to put this team on its back, on his back. I didn't see that from Pierre-Luc Dubois. I'm not saying there wasn't an effort tonight, but I just didn't see enough of what he needed to do when the chips are down. And look, guys, I mean, it's not a game that we saw this literally kind of this blueprint work out for the Jets with a lesser, score discrepancy in game 3. So the Jets you get an early goal in the third period. I mean, you're not out of that game, even without a lot of players. And the Jets realistically could have, had one shot go this way, one shot go that way. It's a tie game. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that you needed more from Kyle Connor. You needed more from Pierre-Luc Dubois. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like Drew and you were, as you're saying, and I agree with you guys, it's really nice to have an effort from a guy who's making $950K. It's really nice to have an effort from a guy who makes 1.2. Mm-hmm. But again, if you make 6, you make 7, you make 8, if you make those numbers, and oftentimes we often say, well, forget about the salary cap. At the end of the day, Nate Schmidt makes X or Blake Wheeler makes this. You can't really fixate on that stuff. But again, if you're one of those guys who's young and hungry, like a Pierre-Luc Dubois, says, I want to get paid the big bucks, this is when you have to perform. And he's got 2 goals in the playoffs, nothing bad in 4 games. But at the end of the day, it's about what are you doing to drive this team and bring this team into it. And, when you've lost Mark Scheifele, you don't have Nikolai Ehlers, you lose Josh Morrissey. I mean, it's unfortunate for this Jets club that they just don't seem to have that enough, I guess, right now that is going to help them get over that hump of all these absences.
I would say one other player who needs to step up for the Winnipeg Jets in this series is Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, Connor Hellebuyck, who has been the lifeblood of this team and the driving force on this team for so long, has been, I would say average at best in this series. He hasn't been overwhelmingly tested, but there's been times where the Jets need a save and he hasn't been able to get it for them. And Ezzy, I want you to comment on that. But before I do, Rick Bowness speaking to the media saying Mark Scheifele has an upper body injury and will be reevaluated tomorrow. So he's not immediately declaring him out like he did for Josh Morrissey after game 3 on Saturday evening. But he's saying that Scheifele to be reevaluated tomorrow with an upper body injury. So there you go. That's the latest regarding the Winnipeg Jets, Mark Scheifele. Ezzy, I want you to touch on Connor Hellebuyck and his performance so far in this series.
He hasn't been, I would say, otherworldly like we've seen down the stretch or at many times over the last 6 or 7 years. I don't think anybody's going to say that Hellebuck was bad tonight.
No.
But when you consider that, the Jets are without their number one defenseman, and, they're plugging guys that haven't played yet in the series, like Logan Stanley, like Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, and now, at least tonight, Scheifele's out of the lineup. Yeah, I mean, Hellebuck has to be that much better, right? Even going into the series with Scheifele and with Morrissey, you knew that Hellebuck was going to have to be the Jets' best player. And you're right. I mean, one save is all the difference, right? Like, I agree with Dave, and that's kind of what I was getting at here. Like, you could simplify the situation the Jets are in right now down to, they don't have Morrissey, they don't have Scheifele, they don't have Ehlers. Poor us. We just don't have enough talent. We can't beat the Golden Knights. But there they were in the third period after Dubois scores, and it's a 1-goal game, right? And they were pushing. Like, the Jets had a lot of pressure. We talked about it. They were buzzing. The zone time in this game, was very close. I don't have the numbers, but when they showed it, it was very equal. And the possession, I believe, was fairly equal. I haven't checked it.
Possession was actually 57% to 43% in the Jets' favor at 5-on-5. Expected goals at 5-on-5, 1.9 for the Jets, 1.6 for the Golden Knights.
Yeah, so like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a close hockey game. Translation, that's a close hockey game, right? So in a close hockey game, usually talent will prevail. And, like we talked about, even if Scheifele's up the middle and Morrissey's in the lineup, I mean, the Golden Knights are a 4, like, even that fourth line, Dave, like Nicholas Waugh, Keegan Colasar, and I guess Ivan Barbashev was there tonight, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. Like, that's a really good fourth line. Like, those are the types of players that you could easily move up and play on the third or second line, right? William Karlsson, I think, has been, amazing in this series. Like, Jack Eichel didn't even have a point in this game, but he was, creating chances, drawing penalties. I think, Jack Eichel has outplayed Pierre-Luc Dubois. That was one of the key matchups.
Except for game one.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Dubois was excellent in game one, but I think, 3 of the 4 games, Eichel's been better. We saw Mark Stone, like, Brett Howden could have made that a 2-goal game, and then you don't need the empty netter, right? We all remember what happened there. Mark Stone went through a couple Jets players. Brett Howden just, he couldn't put it in the net. I think Mark Stone's been really good. Obviously, Howden scored a goal for the Golden Knights. And I mean, sometimes that's just the way it goes. And the Golden Knights have been getting the bounces, like, including on the Howden goal, right? Like, Pionk tries to get the puck into Appleton in the corner. So he turns the puck over. I think it's Mark Stone that brings it up the ice, drops it to Howden. The original shot is blocked by Pionk. I guess I'm getting into the Betway game recap here a little bit, but again, that was the bounce. But then the Jets get the bounce on the Pierre-Luc Dubois goal, right? Where Wheeler takes the shot, it goes up in the air. Pietrangelo waves his stick at it. So that's a bounce that goes in the Jets' favor. But that's really what this game was, a 1-goal game in the playoffs. It comes down to a bounce here, a bounce there. So, I mean, yes, the Jets desperately need Scheifele back for game 5. But this was a game that could have easily pushed overtime.
Well, look, when it's a 1-goal game, the Jets were pressing and they were doing what they could, and if the puck goes, similar to how it went on Saturday and ends up on Lowry's stick in front as opposed to ricocheting into the corner or something, then it's a completely different situation. There's just, the Jets just seem to be, from my estimation, after the 3-1 goal in particular, the Jets are just struggling uphill to just try and generate really anything that I would describe as a quality scoring chance. They had a lot of zone time and they had some good shifts. So I'm not saying that they didn't have zone time, but how many of those chances were what I would describe as great chances? I mean, not very many of them. The goal they scored, the 3-2 goal, was again more fluky than anything. They get credit for going to, in front of the net and the bounce happening like it did. But again, they look like an undermanned team. They look like a team that is playing with less skill than their opponents, and they are. So, I mean, it's not really a surprise that they looked the way they were because of the simple fact they are just absolutely running into the injury bug at a completely inopportune time. When you take, before the series started, the question is, do the Jets have enough depth? Are their players as good as the Vegas players are, up and down the lineup, Dave? And then you subtract Ehlers, you subtract Morrissey, and you subtract Shifley now. Well, I mean, there's no wonder you're down 3-1.
And then you add in Mark Stone, right? And
Right,
that was
Vegas,
that
exactly.
to me has been like, I'm sorry. I maybe I'm higher on Mark Stone than other people, but I mean, like he's not a top 5 offensive right winger, but defensively, he's a top 3 right winger, and I think overall probably at least top 20 forward in the NHL, top right winger. And you're right, Drew. I mean, look at Vegas had some issues, and the question mark was in goal. And specifically, we talked about Laurent Brossoit only having really a period of playoff experience. He was not good in game 1, but he's outplayed Hellebuck so far in the series. And I don't know if a lot of people thought that would be the case. And you got to give credit to Dave. Let's get Dave in here. He hasn't spoken in a while. I mean, the Golden Knights defense, like we talked about it with Jesse Granger, right? Like everyone knows about Alex Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore, but like that third pair, Nick Hague, Zach Whitecloud, has really impressed me. Like they're big. The Golden Knights defense is big. It's tough to get to the net. I'm not saying that the Jets haven't tried or haven't gotten to the net at times, but it's a pretty good group of defensemen. Like, let's not forget, this was the top team in the West after all.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right, Ez, and I think that's, we can't glaze over that and pretend like suddenly Vegas was a bunch of slouches and weren't a very good hockey team. The fact is that they were, and you're right. You don't get to 111 points using 5 different goaltenders by accident. We've talked about their defense, which for a lot of this series, the Jets have found hard to penetrate, and their forwards are pretty damn good. And I agree with Ezzy. And if anyone wants to go back and listen to the preview show that we did, when we were talking about this being a toss-up series, especially a 4 versus 5, more like a 4 versus 5 than a 1 versus 8, one of the biggest X factors that we tried to bring into the equation was what Mark Stone was going to do and what kind of difference maker Mark Stone could be in the series. And guys, Mark Stone has been way more effective than Jack Eichel. Like Jack Eichel, sure, he's did all right on the power play, but he's not that noticeable. I mean, if you're asking me, and I'm watching this game here in the building, Phil Kessel, invisible. Jack Eichel has been there, but not dominant. Not like the guy who was drafted behind Connor McDavid, sort of dominance in a second overall pick. And I understand this is his first crack at the playoffs, but Mark Stone has been a difference maker. There's no question about it. He is in on everything. It's been a Manitoba thing. Like if you look at all the Manitobans on this, as he talked about Zach Whitecloud, but you look at Keegan Kolesar, you look at Brett Howden. I mean, if he gets that goal that he misses, he puts that shot in. I mean, that just seals the deal, and that kills the Jets' chance at even coming back into this game, obviously. And then he gets the empty netter. But him and Stone work so well together. So yeah, I mean, Mark Stone was the biggest X factor for any of us in this series and how it was going to go for Winnipeg and their ability to kind of compete with Vegas. And then you remove Mark Scheifele, and then you don't have Nikolai Ehlers. And again, ultimately, you don't really have Pierre-Luc Dubois and Kyle Connor being super effective and really being able to impose themselves on the series. I'm not saying there weren't flashes here and there. Of course they were. They're too good to be completely invisible for 60 minutes. But the fact of the matter is you needed a more significant effort. And, at first I saw that third goal against Connor Hellebuck, and I thought it was a terrible goal. Then you see the tip by Barbashev, and you realize it's actually a pretty nice tip. And Logan Stanley probably should have had a closer connection to the player and not allowed him to have that sort of gap. But, I mean, it is an unfortunate situation that the Jets weren't able to manufacture and really build on what they did, which was a good start, right? And they had a good start again in this game, and you find yourself up 1-0, and you just can't build on it. So yeah, when Vegas got that 1-1 goal to tie it, and like as he says, I don't want to jump ahead into the Betway game recap here, Drew, because you have to give the intro first, of course. But ultimately, like that, if the Jets could have been able to build on their momentum, which is something they have not been able to do since game 1, you might have seen a different game. But of course they didn't, and as a result, you didn't.
Let's get into the Betway game recap. It's brought to you by our friends at Betway, one of the most trusted voices in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Betway is the sports betting app that puts you, the customer, at the forefront with a large selection of betting options in sports, as well as strong promotions and fair odds. What are you waiting for? Head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. Big thanks to Betway for their continued sponsorship of the Illegal Curve post-game show. Blake Wheeler opens the scoring just like the Jets wanted. Get the crowd into it, get an early goal, get the good vibes rolling. This is after, of course, Scheifele has left the game after suffering the injury. With the Jets on the power play, Scheifele has just gone to the bench basically. It's Blake Wheeler, his second of the playoffs, assist to Neil Pionk and Nino Niederreiter. That was, I believe, made it the 5th straight goal that Pionk had assisted on the Wheeler opener. It's 1-0 for the Jets at the 5:53 mark of the first period. I think that was his 5th, wasn't? Didn't he get on all 4 goals?
The next one, I think he wasn't 4 last time. It was 3 the last game. He had 3 assists last game, and he had 2 assists this game.
Okay, so it's up to 5 now. I didn't know if it was up to 5 or 6. Anyways, thank you. Wheeler, anyways, gets the Jets on the scoreboard. Power play goal. Not a great goal. Probably a goal that Laurent Brossoit wants back, but the Jets will take it. No questions asked with the early 1-0 lead, as he.
Yeah, Wheeler and Pionk are playing catch there, right? Like they're passing it back and forth. And what stood out to me on this goal was you have Dubois on the left side, and he's circling back. He's moving. And obviously, the Golden Knights know that, and Wheeler's kind of using him as, I don't know if the decoy is the right word, but, that's an option to go cross seam to Dubois. And so I thought it was a smart play by Wheeler to kind of, give off the impression he was going to pass it over to Dubois, who was pretty open at the point. Not at the point, but at that point is what I meant. And it was a nice shot by Wheeler. Like, sure, I guess, it's from the, face-off circle and everything like that. But I thought it was a nicely placed shot. But that's what stood out to me on that goal was that Dubois was wide open. And I think, Wheeler sold that he wasn't going to be going to Dubois and he was going to be selfish and take the shot. And we've seen him do that before because Wheeler's obviously known for being more of a distributor on the power play, but he's actually got a pretty decent wrist shot. He's obviously not known for his shot, but, it was a nice goal.
Yeah, exactly what the Jets wanted to start the series, Dave. Start today's game, get the home crowd into it, get everyone excited, with the late start, the game starting closer to 9 o'clock than 8:30. But Wheeler did what he needed to do in getting the Jets the early 1-0 lead.
Sorry, I was just reading Laurent Brossoit's comments about a courtesy of our friend Darren Balmy, who said he heard the chants from the folks at Canada Life, and he said, and I quote, "It was fuel." So perhaps the fans might want to change their chant a little bit for if there is a Game 6.
Relax. Okay.
Well, I'm Drew. I'm kidding.
I know you are.
I was tweeting about the show, to be honest with you, and then I saw that, so I was laughing.
Relax, players. That it's fuel. How about the fact that you're playing for the Stanley Cup? That's fuel. You are the backup goalie, Laurent Brossoit. You're on an incredible run. You're on an incredible heater. Congratulations to you. All praise to you for it, but relax. You are what you are. Embrace it and embrace the run that you're on right now.
Let me tell you, Jets fans wouldn't be upset if they still had Laurent Brossoit here as a backup goaltender for the Winnipeg Jets. But anyways, that's not the point. Point is, Jets have a 1-0 lead, courtesy of Blake Wheeler, and it's funny how you're right with Scheifele down, and as he's right, he used his weapons available, and we've often joke how Blake Wheeler taking a shot isn't exactly a fearsome prospect for a goaltender to face, especially given that sort of time and space. But look, he gives the Jets the lead and he gets the crowd, he gets it going in here. And like I said, it was loud. It was the crowd is amped up. They were excited. It was, I don't know why. Well, first of all, I'm going to rail a little bit here on Sportsnet because God forbid this game actually starts on time. It was an 8:30 start time. The game didn't actually start till 8:50 because, of course, the Leafs. God forbid we.
No.
Upset the Leafs.
This is the actual puck drop. Yeah, this is what they did. This is what they did in the game. Well,
then why would you put tell everybody the game starts at 8:30?
Because they want to bring everyone in for whatever pregame nonsense. This is what they do. This is. I don't think that this is necessarily what for Sportsnet as much as it is. Remember, they used to do this all the time. When NBC had the rights, the game time the ticket would say 2:30.
Okay, well,
the TV broadcast would start at 2:30 because they couldn't do a pregame show before that, so they do the pregame for 20 minutes, and then the puck drop would be 2:50 or something like that. Or 20 minutes after.
How about just tell us when the game's going to start?
That's with all respect,
whether it's online, whether I'm with Dave, if that's the plan, because the thing is, we know hockey games don't start exactly to the minute. They usually start 5 to 7 minutes, right? Because you have the the intro stuff, the anthems and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, it's noticeable. And the thing is, guys, not a lot of kids are able to stay up and watch these games, right? Like I'm talking about here in Manitoba, not in Vegas. I mean, obviously, in Vegas it's a couple hours earlier, but I mean, so it like if you're a kid and you're staying up late a little bit to watch the game, it's kind of annoying.
Well, I mean, and I guess ultimately my point I'm trying to make is that I pay attention to this as much as anybody, and when you tell me it's 8:30, then I think it's 8:30, and if you're going to qualify and say puck drop isn't actually 8:30, then that's fine, but you don't, and so people think, we set the tweets for 8:30. I mean, it was literally the tweet went at 8:50, and that's when the game started 1 minute later. So that's when our show tweeted. So hopefully everybody who's joining us here because of that tweet and because of all the other tweets we send out and all the other things that we do to get you here on the Illegal Curve Post Game Show, smash that like button while you're here. Give us some love.
You just revealed state secrets, Dave, that we actually don't post all the tweets in real time. Well, there's no way we could, by the way, because I think we tweet about 50 a day.
Well, and I really hope that people realize that when I'm tweeting, when I inadvertently, as Drew pointed out the other day, tweeted at 7, it was like
3 in the morning.
It was like 3
a.m.
Yeah, 3 a.m. I'm like, okay, time for puck drop with join Ezzy. Now the funny part was, Drew, the only good thing was I don't think I was actually very specific. So it was actually generic enough that it made it just sound like it was a game day and you got to join us. Why it would have gone at 3 in the morning, I don't know. But ultimately, Drew, rather than deleting it and resetting it,
if the Jets have to go in Asia, then the game will start at 3 in the morning Winnipeg time.
Well, I mean, anyways, it's not important to get into. But
the point
1-0 for the Jets. The point I was going to make. What was your point? Did you actually have a point?
I was talking. Well, because Ezzy made the best pregame comment of the whole show. Soul Bear crushes Cocaine Bear.
Soul Bear singing
Drew
the
didn't
national
like that.
anthem. I did not like that. I'm cool.
Drew thinks Cocaine Bear is better than everything.
It's a Cocaine Bear for life, no question about it. In this household, Vegas tied it up 4 minutes after the Jets opened the scoring. Brett Howden, his first assist to Chandler Stevenson. And it's a nice shot and it's a nice goal by Howden. But again, there is a fluky benefit to this one. The first shot is blocked. I think it was by Neil Pionk. Does a great job blocking the initial shot. How often does the shot block end up right back on the stick of the shooter? And the only difference is this time he's in a better shooting position. And as a result, he wires it past Connor Hellebuck. Beats him, I believe, glove side top shelf to tie the game up at 1. I mean, a fluky bounce to the benefit of the Vegas Golden Knights, and to their credit, they take advantage of yet another fluky bounce going their way, Ezzy.
Yeah, and I mentioned it before we got into the Betway game recap, but Appleton gets the puck back to Pionk, and then Pionk tries to get it back to Appleton along the boards, and that's when it's intercepted, right?
Yeah, it turns into a 3-2 for Vegas.
Yeah, and it was Mark Stone. We talked about how good of a defensive forward Stone is. Pardon me, I think it was Chandler. No, it was actually Howden himself. Sorry, he dropped it to Stone once he crossed the blue line. So the turnover was to Brett Howden. And you're right. I mean, it's a very fortuitous bounce after Pionk blocks the initial shot. But we've talked about it so many times, right? Like when you're playing a team that has a quick strike transition offense, like the Golden Knights do, right? Like these are good players. That's what can happen off of turnovers. But you're right. I mean, Pionk makes an initial nice block, and Howden follows it up, and he makes no mistake. That goal you're obviously not going to fault, Hellebuck on. It was a beauty.
Yeah, that one was a fine one. That was nothing wrong with that one. It was a very nice shot from Brett Howden. He's been very effective in this series for the Golden Knights. He's been strong on the forecheck. He's actually moving his way up the lineup based on his play in the series, which should tell you that he's moving up. A guy like Ivan Barbashev is dropping down lower in the lineup because Howden simply is one of those guys who's deserving more ice time based on his play for the Golden Knights so far. A 1-1 after 20 minutes, shots on goal in the first period, 10-8 in advantage of the Golden Knights. But all in all, a pretty reasonable period played by both teams. I think both teams would probably be pleased with the first period the way it went. Second period, no goals scored.
Hold on, Drew, you're going to go through the first period and not mention the Manitoba Jeopardy winner? I mean, come on.
You're
Emma
right.
Carpenter?
I was going to
Capron,
do that.
Sorry, I got to mention her name.
Okay.
They showed her on the Jumbotron. Shout out to Emma. She won at least one, maybe two rounds of Jeopardy. So congratulations. Always nice when you can give a shout out to a Manitoban wins Jeopardy. Come on, that's and they played
I
the
leave
Jeopardy music.
I leave the pedantic tweets for you and your Instagram posts and all
Your
that
Instagram,
nonsense.
really? Oh, that's funny. I could have sworn it said illegal curve on the Instagram.
Yeah, I know, but you like to do the pedantic stuff, and I like to do the hard hitting journalism that you find here on the post game show.
You mean like when I asked Dmitry Kuzmin if he spells his name with a Y or an I today?
Yes, exactly. Hard hitting journalism.
For the record,
getting
folks,
the
it's
answers.
a Y.
It was a Y. So there you go.
I also found his favorite restaurant in Winnipeg. If anyone's interested,
you can tell you what, get them on board as a sponsor. Then you can get them. Then you can give them a plug at that point in time. Vegas made.
I don't think we can be sponsored by individual players, Drew.
No, the restaurant. He's saying that's what Dave is saying. That
what's the restaurant?
Oh, we're not. He's not allowed to say it until he.
Sometimes why?
Ezzy, I was being sarcastic, but go on.
Okay. Vegas makes it 2-1 at the 13:32 mark of the second period. William Karlsson, his third of the series, assist to Jonathan Marchessault and Shea Theodore. This comes 2 seconds after the Pierre-Luc Dubois tripping penalty expires. So it's not a power play goal, but Dubois not yet, really back in the play. It's a nice redirection by William Karlsson. You're allowed to redirect the puck with your skate. And, there was some thought that maybe there was a potential for goaltender interference on this one. Not in my books.
I didn't see that at all. I think I forget if it was John Bartlett or Gary. I think it was Gary Galley that was questioning that. But no, I don't think there was anything there at all, Drew.
No, I mean, Hellebuyck was Karlsson wasn't in the blue paint. So if you're not in the blue
also,
paint,
I don't think he touched him on the replay. Like, I don't think you really actually saw any significant physical contact.
Well, no.
In fact, I'm pretty sure Hellebuyck was the one who initiated the contact.
Exactly. What you see on the replay, and I think it was Kelly Rudy who showed it during the intermission.
Yeah,
you actually see that Hellebuyck's pad gets hooked on Karlsson. So if you go back and you watch the replay of the goal, and you sort of see Hellebuyck is his body is in a weird position. He's almost like sideways to the net as opposed to a square. It's because his pad, the top of his pad, as he's coming out to challenge and he's outside of the blue paint, actually gets hooked on Karlsson and sort of gets twisted as a result. So it's really, and again, just a bizarre sort of play. And then of course that allows Karlsson to redirect the puck, the pass from Marchessault, and there's a big 5-hole for him to redirect it through, and it gives the Golden Knights a 2-1 lead at that point, Ezzy.
Yeah, I think you summed it up pretty well there, Drew. Like the Golden Knights, we talked about it with Jesse Granger on Saturday's show. The Golden Knights power play has been an issue, not just this year, but for many years. It sure looked good to me tonight. Like this doesn't officially count as a power play goal because it almost seemed like the power play ended as the goal was scored. Like it was like maybe a second or two after the clock went off, the power play clock on the broadcast. And you're right. I didn't originally think that it went off of Karlsson's skate. I just thought he tipped it, but it was clearly off of his skate. But obviously there wasn't a distinct kicking motion is what they're looking for, right? We know that. But the Golden Knights were moving the puck. It was Dylan and Pionk were on the ice for, I don't know if it was the whole power play, but it felt like Dylan and Pionk were out there for the whole power play, penalty kill, I should say, Vegas power play. But yeah, Marchessault and Karlsson have been doing this for the Golden Knights since the 2018 run for the Jets, right? And they've burned the Jets many times in the regular season, and these are skilled players, and that's what's kind of almost difficult to comprehend how the Golden Knights, you would think would have a top 10 power play every single year, especially adding Jack Eichel, right? And Dave mentioned it, like Eichel he's made interesting looking plays. There was a play he made, I forget it was the second period or third period. It looked like he kind of caught Hellebuyck off balance, Dave. And he tried, do you remember a play I'm talking about? He kind of looked like he was trying to shoot it off of his arm or something. It was like behind the goal line. Okay, there you Drew. You remember?
It was a very it was an tight, the bad angle attempt, but it looked it looked like he was trying to deflect that off of Hellebuyck's inside of his arm. But also, Eichel, early in the game, it didn't amount to anything aside from a scoring chance. But off the faceoff, he had that great opportunity as well, where he just shot it clean off the faceoff. And if Hellebuyck had to be sharp and on his toes there, because it wasn't an easy save given the circumstances, and you're not expecting a shot right off the draw there.
No, it's good on you to point that out, because even though Eichel isn't racking up the point, he didn't have any points in this game. But he's been pretty good this series. But yeah, look at, I mean, if you take penalties and you can get burned, and we talked about it. Like Pierre-Luc Dubois was excellent in game one. He's got into penalty trouble, right? Yeah. And that's kind of the downside of his game, right? Like, you want Dubois, Dave, to play a physical game. You want him to lay the body checks. You want him to drive the net, use his body as a shield, everything like that, right? But you don't want him to take unnecessary penalties, and that's what he's done in games 3 and 4.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question, Ezzy, and that's what we were talking about with these guys, is that discipline is huge. I mean, look, the fans are hoping that everything is going to be a penalty against Vegas and nothing is going to be a penalty against Winnipeg, but that's not the way the playoffs work, of course. And ultimately, that's one of those things that you just have to, like, you're right, it's a fine line, especially for a guy who plays a physical brand and wants to be engaged, whether it's emotionally, physically, in the hockey game, for like a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois. So for him to be able to walk that line is the key. And ultimately, like we've said, first of all, you need him because you need to score goals, but you also don't need, even though Vegas coming in, and we talked, like you just mentioned, as Jesse Granger was on our show on Saturday talking about how bad the Vegas power play has been. And the Jets even though the Jets' penalty kills look good during this series, the fact of the matter is that you're giving Vegas those opportunities needlessly to take control of the hockey game. And it's when you're as fragile as you are, and look, people could say we're making excuses, but when you don't have some of your best players, Josh Morrissey, probably one of the Jets' best players this season, right? Mark Scheifele, top goal scorer. Nikolai Ehlers, he's the best 5-on-5 guy they've got. So you're missing those three guys. What does it look like, right?
Throw in Cole Perfetti as well. I realize that, you could say that, Perfetti's, a young player and he doesn't have the same impact, Dave, but they could, we got Scotty Billick here. Maybe Scotty should just pop in.
Here, I'm going to unmute.
We want to hear from you, Scott.
Yeah, Scotty, what's your in-depth analysis?
Fresh haircut too, Scotty.
Oh yeah. I don't even know if anybody's saying. Hey,
Drew, you want to hear them here?
As he's on the Ozempic.
Oh, we got Jay Bell.
Oh boy.
Oh wow, I could hear them beaking me in the background, but now
who else is coming in there?
Jay Bell.
Jay Bell.
Send Scotty and Jay the link, Dave. Let's make this a 5-man unit here.
That was an ad. That was a free ad for Rogaine. So, anyways.
Oh man, that was amazing.
That was a good line.
Love it.
A free
ad for Rogaine. Oh man, that was funny.
You didn't hear what Jay Bell just said on the way back, but this is what happens. This is what happens when you do the show while they're all trying to write. So I appreciate that they're giving me the consideration to not throw me out over the press box right now.
There you go. It's 12:15 in the morning. It's off to overtime. By the way, between Seattle and Colorado, 2-2. The Kraken outshooting.
So who's posting the ICOT pool sponsored by Rumors?
Well, I was about to, but I'm talking right now, so I'm trying to multitask. So maybe Dave M will post it a little bit. Well, no, Dave M shaking his head. It's not worth it. But you can enter the Illegal Curve overtime pool, #ICOT pool. Pick one player from Colorado. Pick one player from Seattle. It's your choice, but pick only one player. Tweet it.
Drew doesn't like it when you pick two.
I don't like it when you pick two. Tweet it at Illegal Curve, and if you choose correctly, you can win a great prize package from our friends at Rumors Comedy Club. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, I should say, to be exact. Takes Vegas 47 seconds later to extend the lead from 2-1.
Sorry, Drew, as an aside, for whatever reason, I took these guys up here a long time to calculate. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus.
Tweets, yeah.
But it was like 51 seconds, 47 seconds, 51. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I didn't care, so I wasn't paying attention. But I was like, I don't understand, how hard is it to do the math, guys? I mean, this is not you don't need to get an abacus.
You don't even really need to know. Like, it was a quick goal. All you needed to know, it was a bang bang, like Dennis used to say. Unfortunately, it was the bad team scoring. It wasn't a good bang bang, it was a bad bang bang.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to ask you to stop saying bang bang, please. But it was 47 seconds. Regardless.
Why did that bother you, Drew? That bang bang triggered you.
A little triggered.
This is a safe space, Drew. Talk to us.
No, I'm not going to. I prefer not to talk to you, period. Yet here we are. Game number 80. What is this? Game number 86 of the season. So, and yet we still are here. Ivan Barbashev at the 14-19 mark. of the second period. He gets his first of the series, assist to Shea Theodore and Chandler Stevenson. Theodore comes in. He was at the top of the face-off circle. He snipes the shot, and Barbashev gets a little bit of a tip on it, enough to get past Connor Hellebuck. I know it's tipped, and I know that makes a degree of difficulty, but if you're Connor Hellebuck, you just can't let that goal in at that moment, at that time. You have to find a way to make that save. And I know it's easy for me to say that from here, but given the circumstances, given the injuries up and down the Jets lineup, just given everything about it, a 2-goal lead when you're without Scheifele, without Morrissey, and without Ehlers. I know they did it on Saturday, and they got close to doing it today, but that's a save he has to find a way to make, in my estimation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a goalie. I'm not a goalie expert. I mean, it's if you just take away that it was a beautiful tip and it was at the point of the game, yes, he has to make a save, because if you go down 2 goals, it's going to be tough, especially as you mentioned, you don't have as much firepower in your lineup. You're relying on players like Kevin Stanley and Morgan Barron to fill roles left by guys like Mark Scheifele and Nikolai Ehlers, right? But if you look at, and I was just watching the replay, it was a nice tip. And how many times do we see this, guys, not just in this series, but other series, right? Like, you see a lot of tip goals, and you can see Hellebuck's glove, because the Theodore shot comes from the left side. He has his glove ready because he's tracking the puck, and it gets tipped up over his glove, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's a nice tip. I don't think it was a bad goal, put it that way. But again, Drew, when Hellebuck is at his best, he's finding ways to make those saves, right? And he made some nice saves throughout the game. We talked about Jack Eichel earlier. He made a really nice left pad save. Eichel moved in, and it was point blank. That's one that stands out to me, right? But look, I think it was a nice tip. I'm not arguing with you just for the sake of arguing, but we know that goalies, like those are the types of shots that are the most unpredictable and the toughest to save, right, Dave?
Yeah, and Ezzy, what I was going to say, to me, the biggest thing, because when I originally saw it, I thought, that's a terrible goal. How does Connor Hellebuck not make that save? That was my first reaction. And then I watched. Then I was like, well, wait a second, why are they giving it to Barbashev? And then once I realized that he had tipped it, that changed my opinion of it. And I went back and watched the replay. And yeah, I mean, look, again, like I said in our intro, I don't like the gap between Logan Stanley and Barbashev, because Barbashev is unmolested in front and has his opportunity to take a stick, tip that puck, and tip it past Connor Hellebuck. And I'm not, as you said, Drew, I'm not a goalie expert. You want, like, the Brossois not stopping the Wheeler shot. That's one you think your goalie should have. A tip play like that, it's not an easy one. I'm not saying that he hasn't adjusted in the past and made that stop, but it's a lot greater of a difficulty for Connor Hellebuck to make that save on that kind of tip by Barbashev. So you got to give him credit. Like I said, I just don't love the gap between Logan Stanley. I didn't even like
Logan Stanley creates, like, he cross-checks Barbashev. Barbashev's going backwards, Dave, and tips the puck after Stanley cross-checked him. So it's kind of an odd play. Like, Stanley was there, like, right? Like, he was on the right side of the puck. He was there. It was just I don't know. I mean, look, it was a nice tip. I don't know what else there is to say about it, right? Like, I don't know if you can fault any one player on that particular play. Like, how many of those plays do we see in a game that the tip goes wide or the player doesn't get a stick on it, and it's just an easy save? Because if Barbashev doesn't get a stick on that, Hellebuck just gobbles it up with his glove.
I mean, the deflection makes it that much more difficult. I just want to see him find a way to make that save in that situation, but I understand everyone else's perspective as well there.
Well, Drew, I mean, the reality, Drew, just quickly I was
going to say, what I think Drew's talking about, Dave, like, remember what you were going to say here, but Hellebuck has not been, like, the word I used was otherworldly, Hellebuckian, whatever, like, top peak Hellebuck. He has not been peak Hellebuck in this series.
In the last 3 games of the series, Brossois has been just as good as Hellebuck. Right.
And that's what I think is kind of, I don't know, clouding what you're talking about on that particular goal. That Hellebuck has been good, but we're not used to Hellebuck just being good. We're used to him being excellent.
Mm-hmm. And
sorry, go ahead. No, the only thing I was going to say is it's not even, again, it's not just on Hellebuck, because if you actually look, it wasn't as if that was the first sequence of Vegas gaining the zone. That was the second, where they reloaded and then took that opportunity to score the goal. To me, it's the fact that if you're the Winnipeg Jets and you just gave up a goal to go down 2-1, you cannot afford to not react and push back. And we've seen them do it previously, where even if they don't score right away, they're able to, at least tread water. The problem with this team that we saw tonight was you give up a goal, 47, 51, however many seconds, under a minute, bang, bang, as he would say, quoting Dennis, of course.
As Dennis would say. But the fact of the matter is that, to me, was the dagger, because I'll tell you right now, sitting here in this building, watching the fans, whoosh, the only thing that was getting the fans animated was that monster 50-50, which was, I think, ended around $650,000. So one Manitoba is going to be. Did you buy a ticket, Dave? That's what I want to know.
Didn't. But don't worry, Big Daddy, got you covered. But the fact of the matter is that
I'm rich.
if like, to me, that, like, I'm not joking, that folks were getting excited about that there was but that removed, because if you're plucky, if you're the little engine that could, you're saying, look, we're down 27, we're down 55, we're down 44, and 91, as people are saying, although you've been without 91 for a long time. Some people are wondering who 91 is right now, but the fact of the matter is, I know, thank you, Drew.
No, it's not. It's Fedorov.
The fact is that you are still in that hockey game, even though it's 2-1. But then 3-1, it just like whoosh, and the energy was sucked out of the building.
3-2, Seattle wins it in overtime. Jordan Eberle on the power play, 3 minutes into overtime, and it's a 2-2 series between the Avalanche and the Seattle Kraken.
They're making it interesting.
They certainly are. They're giving the Avalanche a run for their money, no question about that.
What about my Devils there, Drew? Nobody's talking about my Devils. Akira Schmid.
Yes, coming out of nowhere.
You have no idea who he is, do you?
I knew he was the goaltender for the Devils. I mean, I know that he was just all of a sudden plucked at plucked.
It's the Swiss connection. Jonas Siegenthaler, Swiss. Akira Schmid, Swiss. Nico Hischier, Swiss. Like, there's something about the Devils in Switzerland, I guess. That's where they like to get their players from.
There you
go.
And
their cheese and chocolate.
Pierre-Luc Dubois cuts the Golden Knights lead in half.
And watches.
2:57 mark. It's a power play goal, assist to Wheeler and Neil Pionk, and it's one of the strangest power play goals you're going to ever see. Wheeler with the shot, sort of similar to the first.
It was a
goal.
Jump ball.
Yeah, and Dubois gets his stick on it and causes a deflection, and then the puck just sort of flutters way up into the air, and then Alex Pietrangelo goes to swipe it away, and somehow he just misses it completely, and it just sort of falls gently down the back, like water trickling down the back of Laurent Brossoit, and the puck ends up in the back of the net. Just an utterly bizarre goal, but the Jets will take that bounce when they really have had so few bounces in this series so far.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people thought, Blake Wheeler was going to get that goal, right? Like, Blake Wheeler takes the shot, it bounces up. And as you said, Pietrangelo, takes a volleyball swipe at it and misses it. But it actually was Dubois that got his stick on the Blake Wheeler shot.
Yeah.
And very bizarre goal. And then they did the video replay, but clearly there was no high stick, there was nothing else preventing it. And like you said, Drew, you'll take that bounce, right? Like, the Jets don't care how that puck goes in. Barbashev went off his skate. Brett Howden gets the bounce. So it was the Jets' turn to get a bounce. Unfortunately, they didn't get any other bounces.
No, they didn't. But the Jets cut it. They made it in
Drew,
third period, Dave.
Well, I was just going to quickly say on that goal, worth noting that Neil Pionk now has contributed, as you were mentioning, 5 straight goal games with the 5 straight goal straight for the Jets and 5 straight assists for Neil Pionk. He has 13 assists in, I think, 16 playoff games for the Winnipeg Jets. So he's now ahead of the guys I mentioned earlier, Andrew Kopp, Brian Little, and Nikolai Ehlers, who all have 12 points. So he now moves into sole possession of 8th on the all-time list. Pretty impressive, actually, that Neil Pionk is, I believe, leading the Jets right now in terms of points, which is
he's got
not
7
too shabby,
points.
so.
He's got 7 points. He's got 7 assists in these playoffs so far in 4 games. So you can't say Neil Pionk.
And how many? By the way, how many minutes?
game.
But more importantly, Drew, how many minutes did he end up playing tonight?
Well, I mean, he played so many after the last game. He ended up
Well, he
playing
played
27-28 is what he played in tonight's game. So
for all the slings and arrows that have been,
I have
thrown his way.
27-27 on my NHL.com, Drew.
Oh, okay, well, fair enough. Whatever. We can split the difference and say 27-27 and 5/hundredths of a second as well. 5/10
Don't ask these
second.
math geniuses to figure that out.
Yeah,
They'll
I
be
won't
still
ask them.
calculating it.
So it's 3-2 at that point, and the Jets get close and they press and they push. But they're really the Golden Knights do a very good job of preventing the Jets from getting anything inside. They don't really get any scoring opportunities from a dangerous area. Vegas is good at keeping it to the outside, and the Vegas defense steps up. Throughout that third period to keep the Jets on the exterior, and they push and they push and they push. But alas, they're not able to end up getting it. Brett Howden puts it into the empty net after he missed what would have been the definitely the insurance marker after a great Mark Stone setup. But Brett Howden into the empty net with 17 seconds to go, giving Vegas a 4-2 victory tonight, a commanding 3-1 series lead. Game 5 goes Thursday night, which might start allegedly somewhere between 9 and 9:30 p.m. It might be, hopefully nothing else gets, delayed to make it even later, but it'll be another late night.
With 3 triple overtimes.
God help us, that the Jets looking to keep their season alive and to come back home for a potential Game 6 on Saturday afternoon, or a potential locker cleanout day probably on Saturday morning instead. One or the other, and it'll all be dictated on what happens on Thursday's Game 5 between the Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. I should make mention, of course, that before we go to break, the Seagram's shot of the game brought to you by our friends at Seagram's. Seagram's 83, Manitoba's #1 whiskey, available at your local Manitoba Liquor Mart or wherever fine liquor products are sold. Ask for it by name, Seagram's 83. We're going to give this one to the Pierre-Luc Dubois goal because it was just that fluky and it was just that weird. That is our Seagram's shot of the game as part of the Betway game recap, brought to you by our friends at Betway. It's simple, fun, and safe to bet with Betway, so head on over to Betway and bet your way. Must be 19 years or older to play. Please play responsibly. When we come back on the post-game show, more on the Jets and the Golden Knights. Tough Duck, hardest-hitting comments still to come, and, of course, whatever other shenanigans we come up with at 12:30 in the morning on, what day is it now? Tuesday morning at 12:30. Drew Mandel, Ezra Ginsburg, Dave Manouk downtown at Canada Life Center. Stay with us. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. We'll be right back.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Dave, my man, why are you in the car already? It's hours until game time.
Drew, it's because I'm stressed out right now, driving around downtown Winnipeg, looking for a parking spot, and I'm not finding one. I've lost Ginsburg. I don't even know where that guy is right now.
Dave, haven't I taught you anything? Do what I do. Pre-book your entire month's worth of game day parking with the Grid Park app. It's super easy to use and saves me both time and stress.
Well, Drew, I'm not independently wealthy like you are. So I'm sorry that I don't have millions of dollars to pre-book my parking month in advance. What's that going to cost you? $25?
How about $5?
Come on, $5? No way.
$5. I'm not telling you a lie. And our listeners can get a free park with the new special promo code Illegal Curve. Guess what? There's more.
Come on, there's more, Drew. You're lying to me. What more could there be?
Grid Park now has underground parking, so my car can stay warm during the game.
So wait a second. All the driving around I do, looking for parking, minus 40, you're telling me I could be toasty warm in a car after the hockey game?
That's exactly what I'm telling you. Underground parking. Just download the Grid Park app. That's GRYD Park and use the code Illegal Curve. All one word. You'll park for free your first time.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. 12:30 Tuesday morning. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. The only good part about these games being in the wee hours is I can do Wordle during the commercial break. So I did finish Wordle for Tuesday. So that's an exciting development in my world. I don't know if you guys are big Wordlers or anything like that. I can see that.
I would say that's not exciting in my world.
Okay. Well,
I've never Wordled, thankfully. So
well, it's little things in life every now and then that the Wordle puts a smile on my face. So I was able to get Wordle done. So I've saved myself mere minutes.
And only on the 6th try.
Hey, sometimes those 5-letter words are pretty difficult there, Mr. Ginsburg. Don't be so cocky.
I used to Wordle when it was a thing. Now I'm off that trend.
You're off the Wordle trend. You're too good for Wordle. Is that what I'm
into Frosted Tips again now.
Oh, good. You and Pacey, right? You're going back to Dawson's Creek. Yeah. That'll be. That is
That's a great reference, Drew.
Thank you. That's a remake I would love to watch. Is Ezzy on Dawson's Creek? You, Katie Holmes. What's her name? The blonde one. I
definitely do not remember her name.
She's
remember
an actress,
the show.
Is it Jennifer Williams? You
could say anything right now, and I would say, yep.
James Vanderbeek, right? Did I get that? Anyway,
no, James Van Riemsdyk.
No, yeah, close. Very similar players.
That
Vanderbeek,
was the original, and then there was the OC. The OC was like the 2000. What was the OC? Was that 2010? Was that farther, longer?
Probably
back
earlier than that.
2005.
I don't know. Yeah.
I'm more of a Dawson's Creek guy.
I understand. Dawson's Creek was exciting for a period of time. It was revolutionizing.
2003, I think.
It was the OC. Michelle Williams. There you go. I knew somebody would help me out there. Thank you, Bombers 1985. Somebody's gonna help
Bombers 1985 knows we're struggling. We've gotten way too old, boys. That's what's happened.
Way too old and way too late is, I think, what you're trying to say.
Bad combination
on the Illegal Curve post game show. Yes, exactly, a bad combination. Some comments from Rick Bonus in tonight's post game show. What did he say? Hang on, I had it right here. Rick Bonus says chances are even at 5-on-5. Pucks are going in for them, and they aren't for us. We need to find more of those greasy ones. And
Rick Bonus just say the team that scores more goals wins the game. Is that what he said there?
Essentially, yeah. It's a pretty similar. You can paraphrase it to that extent. Yes, similar comment. I mean, if you look at the natural stat trick and you look at some of the 5-on-5 play, it is relatively even. It's just a lot harder to get to the front of the net playing against the Golden Knights, especially when the Jets are without Josh Morrissey and their defense is not as big and not as physical as that of the Golden Knights. And the Golden Knights have been doing a good job. Look, you can't overlook that tonight the Jets did not get a 5-on-5 goal. There's 2 goals on the power play, so no 5-on-5 goals for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Is something that's bubbled up and been an issue for this team all year round, and now you're going to be without Ehlers, without Morrissey, Scheifele, up in the air, but the way he left today, it's sort of hard to believe he'd be healthy enough to play on Thursday. But there is the extra day off, I guess, between games, so maybe you get a little bit of another day of rest there. That's to their advantage, but it's certainly not going to be. It's not going to be easy for the Winnipeg Jets. Another comment from Rick Bowness. He said his players fought hard despite the injuries, but we're playing an excellent hockey club every night. That courtesy of our buddy Jesse Granger of The Athletic, who was, of course, at the post-game press conferences for both the coaches as well. Had a nice lunch with Jesse and with Ken from Sin Bin Vegas earlier today. Great to get together with them and introduce them formally in person to the Illegal Curve sandwich. So they
and I heard that you dined and dashed.
I did not. I dined and paid, in fact, is what I did. I did not dine and dash. That is not my
I just
style.
love that those guys tried the Illegal Curve sandwich, right? Because it's obviously the best sandwich in the world. Lawless knows it.
Exactly. Much as he might not admit it, Lawless definitely knows it. As a Tough Duck hardest hitting comment, and then we'll get into the final thoughts for tonight's game.
Yeah, we're gonna give it to Stu Smith. You've got the comment there. Down to 5D early last game and down to 11 forwards this game. Kept both games close. If we can keep a full lineup for a game, we have a chance to win. Obviously, he's kind of being tongue-in-cheek there, I think. I mean, that could be the difference. Maybe if the Jets, don't have any injuries, they'll win the game. But, with what happened to Morgan Barron early in the series, Connor Hellebuck with the shot to the head and the mask, I should say, and the cut and everything like that, and then the injuries to Morrissey and Scheifele, it's just a terrible time for everything to happen, because going into the series, aside from Ehlers, who was injured obviously back on April 11th against Minnesota, you were relatively healthy, but no longer the case. Vegas is much healthier than the Jets, and their depth is definitely being tested right now. So Stu Smith, send me an email, Ezra@illegalcurve.com, and Tough Duck will ship out a trucker hat to you, because it's trucker hat season. Two seasons over, man. It's the spring.
It's trucker hat season. Going to be, I believe, 12 degrees tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. Dave wants something to discuss. He's left a snarky comment in the chat about that he hopes Mindell, the Taskmaster, lets us discuss. What exactly am I not letting you discuss there? I was trying to get you out of there, given that it's 12:40 in the morning, and the odds right now are greater that you're going to get shanked on your way to the car than they are that you're going to make it back to your car safely.
True, I'm from the north end.
If your car is still there, that
True,
say.
I'm from the north end, so I will most likely be doing the one doing the shanking.
Yeah, Dave's the shanker, not the shanky.
Yeah, you'd be the shanky. I'm the shanker. And there's a lot of other media types here, so when they walk out, I will probably be walking out with them. But no, I mean, look, people are asking about who could be a potential recall from the Manitoba Moose. Expect at least 2 of those guys to get recalled. The Moose, of course, don't play their first playoff game. Folks might want to become familiar with that, because that might be the only playoff game in addition to the Winnipeg Ice, who advanced. I think they won 8-2 today. 8-2. So they advance. They'll either play the winner of Saskatoon and Red Deer, who play tomorrow night in their game 7. So that should be a lot of fun for them and for folks. So the Winnipeg Ice will be playing, the Manitoba Moose will be playing. And in terms of who may be recalled from the Manitoba Moose, again, Jansen Harkins has been phenomenal, so I can't see why you wouldn't give him a chance. He had some chemistry with Blake Wheeler. We saw it back when they were playing that series against the Calgary Flames, where he scored his first and only playoff goal. So to me, Jansen Harkins is a guy who makes a lot of sense. And of course, from a defensive perspective, because even though they have Kyle Capobianco, they don't have to make a recall for ahead of Vegas. But if they decide, however they decide to do things, they could recall, of course, Ville Heinola. Declan Chisholm, of course, back in a regular uniform. For the first time today, he was dealing with a high ankle sprain that he suffered last week. So he is back. Little breaking news on the Moose. If you didn't read it in my Moose report, Ezzy, which I hope you did, you'd know that Christian Reichel is not available, even though Christian Reichel is a nice addition, played 2 games for the Jets this year, but he is undergoing surgery either today or tomorrow, season-ending surgery. He had an unfortunate incident in Texas on the final road trip, so he won't be available for the Moose. But again, and Arvid Holm, who was the backup for Connor Hellebuck today, because David Rittich is dealing with a lower body injury. So, quite a few options. But yeah, I mean, look, Jansen Harkins, Dominic Toninato, those 2 guys who, Toninato obviously signed that 2-year extension. But I think that one of those 2 guys are potentially available. And then, of course, the Mooser folks are going to get excited because you can see Jets draft picks, Dmitry Kuzmin and Danny Zhilkin, who joined the Moose this week. So lots are happening with
Hold
the
on, is that
AHL
Dmitry or Dmitry Kuzmin?
I asked him. I was like, Dmitry, I need to know. I've seen it. Well, it's funny. Elite Prospects has it with a Y, and Hockey DB has it with an I. So I'm like, what do you prefer?
Well, we didn't find out that it was Yoel Armia until he went to Montreal.
He played for
Like, we were
Habs.
calling him Joel Armia for years, and then all of a sudden he's Yoel Armia. So
well,
don't forget Toninato. It was Dominic. It's actually Tony Nato, right? Because Dennis was the one who, at the beginning of, I guess
Last
it was
year.
the 2021-22 season, right? So sometimes you just have to ask the players what they prefer.
Leslie, it's also about Mikey Esimont.
That's right.
And it was like Michael. I was like, what? You were Mikey.
It's actually Michelle.
I've been meaning to tell you guys I'd prefer to go by Andrew. I've been preferring that you call me Andrew Mindell for the last 40 years, please. So if you don't mind,
I call you Andrew every once in a while, but it's usually to get under your skin.
It doesn't bother me. It's my name. It really doesn't bother me in the least bit.
My name is my name.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, like I said, it appears that I'm assuming that they'll return home to Manitoba tomorrow, because Rittich will go on the road and he'll be the backup, and they'll have obviously Oskari Salminen as the extra, and that you'll see. I mean, they obviously have extra forwards if they need them, but I mean, my guess is like, why not? It's funny. It's one of the things, and Rick Bowness mentioned this, and he was talking about, Kenny Weber asked him yesterday, I think, or the day before, if he was planning on making a recall, and if they would potentially be in the lineup. And he said, well, it's not really fair to them because they haven't played much. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, Logan Stanley and Kyle Capobianco have played one game each in April. Now, obviously, Stanley's now played a second game. And whereas the Moose guys have played 6 or 7 games because they've been playing all of April. So, Ville Heinola, I mean, to be honest with you, and I'm not going to get into an argument about Ville Heinola, but ultimately, if you're looking for a guy who can move the puck and be a replacement for Josh Morrissey in that regard, Ville Heinola would have made a lot of sense, but they, of course, chose not to go that way.
Comment says that I'm now Mr. Andy Mindell. It's a funny story about that comment. My parents hated the name Andy. So despite naming me Andrew, they always referred to me as Drew from the day I was born because they didn't want people to call me Andy. So there you go. There's the
so obviously you know who Comet is then, or Comet knows you.
No, I have no idea who Comet is. I think because Andrew, the short name for Andrew can be Andy. So he's just sort of making the logical leap off. But as it happens,
people named Andrew called Andy?
Yeah, Andy is it can be a nickname.
But Andy can just be a name too.
It can just be a name
like
too,
a
but a lot of
name,
Andrews are actually Andrews.
Right.
Is how it works. So whatever you want to call me, Andrew, Andy, Drew, it's all good. Gentlemen, I don't know if we're going to have enough time today to talk about Sean Reynolds' gloves, but I think that's a topic for Thursday's post game show.
If the gloves fit, you must acquit, right?
Tell me you didn't love my Seinfeld reference there.
I enjoyed your Seinfeld reference. It was a good reference. I mean, how does Sean survive the winter? Is what I'm concerned about. If he's got to be wearing gloves, it wasn't that cold out today.
I thought they made him tougher in Pinawa. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, I mean,
whoa, Lactabani.
Not Pinawa. I think did he grow up in Pinawa though? Or
you're thinking of Murad.
Murad. Murad was Pinawa. You're right. Sean Lactabani.
Dave, get your Eastman towns right, okay?
Sorry.
You know that I'm I'm frequently out in those parts.
Yeah, property values have dropped dramatically ever since that started happening, let me tell you.
Yet alcohol sales have increased.
But bear sightings have actually gone way up, though.
That's right. Exactly. Bear sightings and alcohol sales have skyrocketed. Property values plummeting.
They were actually going to film Cocaine Bear there, Drew, but they decided to go with a different location.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, exactly. It was one or the other. I think that's it. That's enough of tonight's post-game show. Congratulations to the Winnipeg Ice.
1:45 in the morning.
8-2 victors. For the Ice to win their playoff round. They're off to the Eastern Conference Finals, as Dave mentioned, against either Red Deer or Saskatoon, who are going to be playing Game 7 tomorrow night for the right to play the Ice in that Eastern Conference Final. The Ice had some adversity, but then they came back and obviously won 3 games in a row, dispatching Moose Jaw 8-2 early tonight with a very.
And let me tell you, if they make it
effort.
through and have to play Brad Lambert in Seattle, they are going to be in trouble.
Yeah, Seattle's a damn good hockey team as well, is what it boils down to. Big thanks to everybody for joining us tonight on the Illegal Curve post-game show, I should say, this morning as well. We appreciate your support. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, leave us feedback here, there, and everywhere. We always like to know what you think about these fine programs, and always appreciate when you leave some comments on the iTunes page. Boost up that algorithm. We really don't know what that means, but we've been told that to say it makes it sound smarter. So boost the algorithm, people.
Boost it, baby.
Boost it. Like Dave M's car is being boosted right now off the streets. Big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, and the website a possibility. Our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway. They're the title sponsor of this here post-game show. Tough Duck, you know them. Tough Duck, hardest hitting comments, win a toque, win a trucker hat. In the summer, maybe, well, if the Jets ever go far and get to the Stanley Cup Finals, it might be like win a bathing suit or something, given the warm weather that'll happen. Time will tell if that is going to be this year or not. Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rolly's Transfer, Grid Park, and The Keg support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. Big thanks to all of you for joining us. Big thanks to Dave Minook hanging out in downtown Winnipeg at Canada Life Center. Big thanks to Ezzy Ginsburg hanging out in his basement. I'm your host, Drew Mandel, hanging out in my electrical room. We'll be back on Thursday night. Post-game show will start, I don't know, right around somewhere between 11:30 and midnight, I guess. So, whatever time it's going to be, just stick with us. It might be the last post-game show of the season. Time will tell if that's the case or not, but whatever it is, we'll be back on Thursday night no matter what. Smash the like button. As I mentioned, subscribe to everything where you need to subscribe to. Thanks for joining us. This has been the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Jerry Seinfeld.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.